All right, so first off, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Bradley Ball. Thank you so much for joining me. You are here for real-time intelligence with Microsoft Fabric, tracking the International Space Station. Now, you may ask, why am I tracking the International Space Station? Well, space is a really fun, cool thing. There's some good free open data sets. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to construct something that was fun that other people could also be able to construct and to be able to get a little bit of hands-on experience with real-time intelligence. So first and foremost, who am I? Um, my Twitter handle is SQL Ball. Ball is my family name. Wherever I go, my wife, my kids were the balls. So when I got involved in the SQL community and the data community all up, that's how I ended up getting that name. My blog is SQL Balls. Our YouTube channel is Tales from the Field. We have a podcast as well, Mentally Stable-ish. And then my LinkedIn is SQL Balls. I'm not going to read all this to you. If you want to connect with me, you can feel free to find out my experience. The YouTube channel that we run is Tales from the Field. Please feel free to check us out. I have a new video that's going to be dropping tomorrow. We typically drop our Fabric content on Wednesdays. We just had our Microsoft Fabric monthly roundup with Bradley Schatt from the Microsoft Fabric Cat earlier today, where we discuss every single month the new things that are coming out. Of course, as you know, the Microsoft Fabric Conf is happening in Stockholm, Sweden at the end of this month. So the Tuesday, the 1st, and I believe it's the 2nd of October, we're going to have a really big live show where we're sharing a lot of the details and we're recapping what happened at the conference. So if you would please give us a like, give us a subscribe, and check us out. Okay, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Microsoft Fabric, real-time intelligence, and of course demos. I told you I'm going to get you out of the deck as fast as I possibly can. This is a course. I'm going to grab this link. Oh, let me click on this link and I'm going to open it up in another window so that way I can just throw it in here. This is a pre-con course. It's a little over a year old, but myself, Buck Woody from Microsoft, my colleagues, Niraj Fari, Daniel Taylor, Josh Ludeman. We presented this at Live 360 at SQL Saturday, Orlando last year. If you're looking for free online training content, please feel free to go check this out. This will help you get a little bit involved with Microsoft Fabric. Trial capacities are still a real thing. So if you're turning on and switching on Fabric for the first time, keep in mind you do still get a 60-day trial capacity. However, those trial capacities lasted for about a good year and a half initially. Now they're only 60 days. So if you're interested, there's a lot of components of Fabric. The key thing I want people to understand is that OneLake is the storage that we have for absolutely everything. And then what we're going to be doing is, this is an old graphic, we're using real-time intelligence, and you can pick and choose whatever components you use. Fabric can feel very overwhelming. The key to using Fabric is not to get overwhelmed by it. The Fabric is a little bit like walking in the grocery store and saying, I'm hungry. You could cook absolutely anything in a big enough grocery store. Do you want breakfast? Do you want lunch? Do you want dinner? Do you want an appetizer? Do you want dessert? What's important, I find, with Fabric is really to focus in on what is the problem we're solutioning, the problem that we're trying to solve, what is the solution, and what are the best tools for the job. So in this particular case, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be presenting to you on real-time intelligence. And I told you I wanted to get out of the deck as quickly as possible. So I'm going to put this down. Now, my goal is to construct this as much as I possibly can from scratch. So first up, there's a website I'm going to end up using, and to be able to look at some of our open API items. And the first thing I want to show you is I want to show you the one of where I'm getting the geolocation. So I'm going to throw this into the chat window so people can get to it now. This is the JSON value for the current location for the International Space Station. Now, if I hit F5 and I constantly refresh this, you can see this is updating. This is a Unix timestamp telling me what the time is, and this is the geo position by latitude and longitude. So when we look at real-time intelligence, often what we're doing is we're looking at how can I use that real-time streaming apparatus to be able to get some information. So the first thing I need is I need a mechanism to be able to get this data. So I'm going to start out by creating a folder. And by the way, if you have any questions, make sure and put them in the chat. I'm going to be flipping through a couple different windows. I've got 3 different screens up. I will do my best to see them and we'll try and hit them in line. And so I'm going to construct this as we go. I'm going to actually, let's do a new folder. I'm going to say this is the Global Fabric Conference. So Global Fabric Conference, we're going to create that folder. I'm going to come in here, and there's a couple things that we're going to need right away. You'll notice the menu bar has updated, and instead of having to go into the experiences, I can click new item, and I can come over here and I can even type filter. So I need a couple things at first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with an event house. The event house houses multiple databases. So let's see, GFC, and we're going to do ISS for this. And in this event house, I could have multiple KQL databases, but in here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and skip that. I'm going to say, let's create a new database. And our database name will be, let's see, ISS demo. Now, this is important because I need this KQL database for as part of the real-time intelligence. This is a low latency, high volume database that I'll be able to track my data in. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to provision an event stream. This first event stream we're going to use to get the geolocation. I'm going to say geoloc event. And we'll go ahead and create this. Now, the key information in here, let me grab a new notepad window, is right here. When we're set this up, I'm going to say, let's select a custom app. My app name is going to be my demo geoloc logic app. And when I create this, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go to Event Hub. I'm going to go to Keys. And I'm going to go to the connection string primary and make this visible. I'm going to copy this. Let's paste it right here. Now, there's a couple things that we need to get from here. First off, you can see here's this first part that has my key value in it. I'm separating it at this colon, this semicolon, and then entity path. This is going to be the name of the event hub that is created as a part of this event stream, and this is the key that we're going to use. Now, I'm going to come over into my Azure portal. I've already got 2 workflows created, but my goal is I'm going to create a new workflow for us. We're going to make this stateful. And I'm going to say FC ISS geo loc. Okay. We'll create this. Now, when this creates, I'm going to refresh. And I'm going to head straight into the designer. Now, to create this, the first thing I need to do is I need a trigger. If you haven't built a lot of logic apps, don't worry. We're just walking through it. This is a very basic one. But essentially, I need something that's going to be able to queue up information and send it to Microsoft Fabric. That's why I'm using this logic app for it. I'm going to start with a reoccurrence timer. There we go, reoccurrence. And I'm going to set this interval to be every 5 seconds. And so what this will do is this will kick off every 5 seconds. Let me find my time zone. I'm in the Eastern US. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another task. Now I'm going to add an HTTP task because we've got our URL. We were just looking at that a second ago. Let me go ahead and grab this again, because we know this is updating every 5 seconds. I'm going to be retrieving this information. I'm going to do a get method, and then that's specifically all I need right there. Now, the next thing I need is I need the capability to send this. So I'm going to do a send event. For event hubs. Now, this is where we need to configure this a bit. So I'm going to come back to these values. So the name of the event hub needs to be this right here. It needs to be this event hub name that we produce. So I'm going to say, let's use this value. I'm going to add a new connection. Let's look at how we create this. This name can be anything, GF C geoloc. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to get this value that we just got that contains the connection string. I'm going to go ahead and create this. I've got my name, I've got my connection string. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's send the content across. And what's the content? I'm going to get the body. And the body is the JSON value specifically for this open API. So I do this, we're going to save. And then I'm going to come back to my overview. We're going to click run. And hopefully, yep, we can see this succeeded. Okay, now let me take this and I'm going to come back to Microsoft Fabric. So now that I've got this and this has succeeded, what I really want to do, I can look at the geoloc events. I need data to start processing through this. So we're going to let a couple runs come through here. Eventually, what you would be able to see is you'd be able to see the JSON format. You'd be able to see messages come through. I'm not going to wait for this to refresh because we only have so long and I really want to get this built. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to go back over to my IIS demo. And I'm going to say, let's get some data. And the way I'm going to get some data is, and hold on, I blipped through that really quick. So let's go get data. And you can see we can get an existing event stream. And so what I'm going to do is let's say ISS geolocation. I'm going to use my TF workspace we're in. And you can see here's my geoloc event that we just set up. I've got advanced filters, but I'm not going to use any of these yet, but I will use some of this on my next one, on the astronauts. Now, this is waiting for the data preview to come through. It's making sure that we've got data in the stream and it's going to validate this. I'm doing this all live. I've got videos up on the YouTube channel of how to do this step by step. But there we go. Okay, good. I hate it when the demo gods don't work, but everything seems to be going good so far. Now you'll notice my position is a nested JSON value. So we've got a couple things here, and then I've got a Unix timestamp. I've got to do a couple things to get this working. First, I'm going to say my nested level of JSON is 2. A little bit of fabric magic right there. You can see we immediately separate that out. Now what I can do is I can edit these columns just a bit. I want to take these longitude and latitude positions, and I want to make sure they are sent through as real values. And then this timestamp. So first, I need to change this to a string, and then this is a Unix timestamp. And what I need to do is I need to use the built-in function date time from Unix seconds, and that's going to change that into something that I can actually use. So you can see now I have a date timestamp. I have my latitude and I have my longitude. So I'm going to finish this. This is going to create the data connection, and this will start to land data within our database. So I'm going to click close. And it's going to take a little bit of time for this to start to populate, but very soon, hopefully, we see some values coming through. Now, there's two things I'm going to do real quick. One, as you can see, here's OneLake availability. This is inactive by default. Oh, hold on, I did not do that very well. There we go. It's inactive, and I want to change that to active. Why? Because I want my data written directly to OneLake to be able to use that data or pair it with shortcuts if I want to use it in a lakehouse and default semantic models, something like that. So I'm just going to flip this switch. I'm going to make this active. And then we've got these query URIs and ingestion URL. The query URI we are going to use a little bit later. You can already see we've got some records coming in. So that, let's go. And let's create another event stream. Have lock is on. There we go, event stream. And we're going to call this Astro Power Conference. There we go. Let's create this one. Now this will create this new one. Now this creates another event hub associated with it. So what do we got to do? We've got to go and we've got to get these values specifically for this. So I'm going to, all right, so now that we've got this, I'm going to do a custom application. We're going to do a Global Fabric Conference, and we're going to say astronauts, just do Astros. There we go. I'm going to add that. I click on this, and then I'm going to get my keys and go ahead and pull this up one more time. Let's view this, copy the key. Let's bring this over. Let's do the same exercise again. So I'm looking through here. I see my entity path. I go to the semicolon right before, do a space, come over here, get the entity path again. And now let's use this and we're going to go and we're going to create a new one. So we're going to say, let's add stateful. We're going to say GFC, ISS Astros. There we go. Let's create that. Refresh. Okay. Now, this URL is slightly different than the one that we used previously. Let me get that one for associated with it. Hopefully this continues to work and load. I don't see why it wouldn't, but my hope is that we get this. This should have the astronauts and the craft that the astronauts are on. Yeah, there we go. Oh, had a little blip there. So you can see we've got two different spacecraft and we've got, it looks like 12 different astronauts. So I'm going to get this just as often, but I'm going to show you, I only want the top one values for this, and I'll show you how we get that. So I'm going to come in here to designer, and we're going to go through the same things. I'm going to add a trigger. Reoccurrence every 5 seconds. Time zone going to East Coast. Again, okay. Let's bring that over there. And then I'm going to add an action item, HTTP. We're going to enter our astronauts URL right there. This is another GET request. And then I'm going to add another send event. Now, coming back over here, we'll get the name of this event hub. Pop this in place. We're going to create our new connection using this key. Go ahead and create that. And then remember, we've got to get the content and we're going for the body of the HTTP post. We do this, we can go ahead and save this. Go back to our overview. Execute a run. There we go. And we can see that was successful. Okay, so now that we know this is successful, let's come back over to our database. Remember, we've got our ISS demo. We've got our geolocation. We're going to get data. It's what I have for streaming my screen and my camera at the exact same time. It's running a little slow on me. There we go. Okay, event stream. New table. Let's do ISS astronauts. I'm going to grab our workspace, our event stream, Astro GFC. Now, one thing I do need to do, I need to know what the latest timestamp is that I've got for this. So that way I can pull these values and parse this JSON. So I'm actually going to add a system property here. I'm going to add the xopted and queued time, which is an event hub property of a timestamp for when we get these values. So I go ahead and click next, and any value that comes through, now that I've added this, will have that xopted and queued time associated with it. Okay, so you can see here's these different values. Now, last time what I did was I broke out the JSON. One of the things I want to show you is that we also could do this via the KQL language. So I'm going to leave this exactly as it is. I'm going to go ahead and click Finish. It's going to create the data connection. Go ahead and close this. You can see there's my astronauts table. Now it's going to take a couple seconds for me to get data flowing through to there, but you can see that we've already got data and records sitting in our geolocation. Now, one of the things we'll do is I'm going to construct a KQL query set. And the KQL query set, one of the really cool things is if you aren't familiar with KQL, I'm going to show you how you can actually go ahead and you can use T-SQL to query a KQL query set. So if I come in here, I can say query the table. I could run any of this and it will create these things for me. I'm going to say SQL, show 100 records. And as you can see, it ran that T-SQL select top 100 and it pulled back these values. So I can see there's my top 100 rows. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this. Let's see, today is Tuesday. So we'll say Tuesday demo Brad. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase all of this. Now, I did tell you that you could run T-SQL here. So let me do a couple things real quick. First off, I'm going to expand this. There's my tables. There's my astronauts, and there's my IIS geolog. So I could say select count from ISS geolocation. Or I could double click the table if I want to be able to get the name in there. I just butchered that though. So let me double click the table. You can see there's geolog. I can run this and you can see we've got 90 records. So let's go ahead and change this. Let's see how many astronaut records we have right now. We've got 19 astronaut records. Now, let's say I didn't want to write T-SQL. I had a stored proc and I wanted to figure out how I would rewrite it in KQL. Well, first off, we do have Copilot that you could access to be able to ask it how to be able to write queries, but you could also take T-SQL and you could say, explain. If I run explain, what it will do is it will actually take and create a KQL query that I can copy and paste and run to be able to get the exact same output as the T-SQL statement. Now I've got a couple KQL queries and I don't see any questions. So I'm just double checking, looking at the chat window real quick. I've got a couple KQL queries that we're going to use because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Power BI report. And this Power BI report is going to run direct query. It's going to go directly against the KQL database. And so that way I can also set an auto refresh because these databases are low latency, high intensity, high writes. It gives us the capability to be able to query these databases very, very quickly. So let's go ahead and let me find my queries. So the first one I want is I want to be able to get the latest IIS trajectory. So I'm going to run this where I say, oh, I need a table, geolocation, give me the top 100 by timestamp of the IIS position, longitude, latitude, and timestamp. Obviously, I've done this before, so I made sure that the column names match what I was going to run. As I run this in the KQL database, though, I can see right now, based off the information we have, this is the track as we've been going. If I rerun this, we can see it looks like the IIS right now is over the ocean. It's just passed over Africa. I can also find out some additional information. So if we had let this run for longer than we have within this session, and I said, hey, give me everything from, greater than 90 minutes ago. Check that I've got that name the same. Yep, okay. I could go ahead and get that. The really nice thing is KQL is a very powerful language. I can also just add render scatter chart with kind equals now. And it would give me this information over the map as well. So very, very powerful language, very, very visual as well. And also I want to get the astronauts. So let's look at how I break this out, right? Because the message that we have has a decent amount in there. So if I said, let's get top one by the X opt and viewed. Okay, UE time. All right. Let's do MV expand. People. We're going to inject to string name equals people dot name, and we're going to say to string, let's see, craft equals people craft. All right. See if my typing skills were good enough. Okay, and sure enough, I've got the crew of the IIS and also the Tianjong satellite as well. So now that I have these queries, what I can do is I can plug them in a Power BI report. Now, this is a Power BI report that I've got pre-built. And I apologize, I need to get the link for you all. I will try and do that before the end of this. I've got a Power BI report where I've got my page refresh turned off. It's going to throw a couple errors because, well, I'm trying to query a KQL database that no longer exists. So there's one other thing I need to do. While I'm opening that Power BI report, I'm going to come over to my IIS demo. And I told you right here, this query URI, I need to get that. And what I'm going to do, where's my notepad? I'm going to show you what's here. This is my cluster. And of course, what's our database name? ISS demo. I'm going to put that off the screen because I'm going to use that a couple times. And here's my Power BI report. Now, to be able to get this updated, I'm going to go to transform data. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to edit the source. I've got these queries. These aren't 100% the queries that I wanted, so I'm changing these queries as well. But I've got to update a couple fields. So first, what I've got to update is I've got to update the cluster. I've got to update the database name. And then I'm going to take that first map that we had on the latest trajectory, and I'm going to replace that. And I'm going to click OK. Oh. And it's having me sign in. All right, connect. Let's see, what did I do wrong there? Did I get the right Kusto cluster? That looks correct. That's demo. Oh, that's what it is. I just realized I'm copying a statement and I'm missing something very important. I'm missing the table name, the is geolocation. If I wasn't doing this presenting on one screen, I would actually have my Power BI one on one side and I'd be looking at my Fabric instance on another, and you can see there's our data coming through. Okay, great. Next up, I need to do the same thing to be able to make sure that we can get the astronauts data. let's go ahead. Let's put our cluster in place, our database in place. And then let's get the astronauts. There we go. And then the orbit, which will allow me to look at this over a longer period of time. I'm actually going to use this on a completely different visualization than our main visualization we will initially look at. You can see I'm looking for the trajectory over 90 minutes. Now I've got my data. So I can go ahead and I can close and apply this. Let's go ahead and we'll refresh. Oh, and it didn't like something in the astronauts table, but it did like this one. So let's see if I can find this. Something's wrong. Get astronauts name, get astronauts craft. Let's see, that's craft name, and then craft right there. Okay, there we go. Maybe I changed the names and it just didn't like it. Okay. Now, this looks interesting. I've got a measure on this visualization. Let me make that a little bit bigger. And one of the things you can see right here, so this is the IS location. You can see here's my last point. It is this measure right here where I'm saying find what the max point is and make it a larger size. And I'm also changing its color. So that way this will be an item that specifically lets me track this. Now, what I want to do is I also want to turn on the refresh. My page refresh. There we go, advanced properties. Okay, I'm not looking for it. I believe that's where it should be. This is failing me, and I'm not going to make you all watch me troubleshoot this, but what I'll do is I'll come back over here and I'm going to refresh this a couple times because I want you to see that ideally I would like to see this update as we're going. Okay. Yeah. Maybe next time. Okay. I'll just have to do another video on that one. But as you can see, we can track the location. Currently, the IIS is over the Indian Ocean. And if I do another refresh, because we're doing our direct query and we're getting our data updated every 5 seconds, I can see this begin to move. And what this gives me is the capability to be able to watch this as the IIS is going across the globe. Now, this longer one right here allows me to be able to see this pattern as we're going a longer period in time. And again, the goal was, let's see, within 44 minutes for me to be able to construct this, for me to be able to get this up and running. And then I see a couple questions. Okay. Shagrabandaband. Hi, Bradley. I would like to create a real-time report alert from capacity metrics semantic model. Could you please give me some tips to be able to achieve that? Okay, so you want a real-time report for the capacity metrics semantic model. Right now, so I'll be honest with you. This is going to be a little bit difficult to do because of the way that we surface the data within the semantic model for the capacity metrics report. As I'm sure you're well aware of, sir, there's a delay going on. I can't tell you when, but I can tell you that the team is working on that. That there's going to be some options that give you the capability to control your data a little bit better and have those real-time analytics eventually. right now in the current capacity where we have that, sadly, that's not as capable as you would like. What you can do though is you can put data activator um, on the visualizations of the capacity metrics report, and you can use the activator to be able to alert off of that. Now, not as real time as we would like it to be, but again, there's some stuff in the works, and so the team is aware of that, and hopefully they'll be able to change that. But they I hope that helped with your question. If that didn't, or if you have a follow up, please feel free to throw that in the chat. Luis, could you send us the recording of this session? It's been interesting. Unfortunately, I've missed several steps. No problem. Well, as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and throw this up real quick. So I have a couple things for you to be able to utilize. In the references, I have these links, and let me grab these and I will throw this into the channel. So first in the chat, this is my in real-time analytics streaming tutorial video. This video covers exactly what we were just doing right now in detail. Some of the screens had changed from the first time I did a tutorial on this, which was the real-time tracking of the International Space Station Part 1 and Part 2. And so this goes through there. And I also have links to one of the things I actually did in this one was I constructed the Power BI report from scratch. So I kind of walk through there and I show the measure that we've got as well. And we get that working. And then if you're interested in doing something similar to this with database mirroring, I did this as well with database mirroring, but what I did was instead of using the logic app to be able to send to an event queue and event stream, I used a stored procedure to send the body text to an Azure SQL database that was mirrored to Microsoft Fabric. I then created shortcuts into the KQL database from the mirror, and then I plugged this report into it, and I was able to utilize it. So we've got multiple different ways, depending on if you're pulling from something that already used as a queuing real-time methodology, or if you're using something like an Azure SQL database and you're taking operational real-time event streaming via mirroring, and you're pushing over that to Microsoft Fabric. So those are just two of the videos. But I appreciate you, sir. And yeah, if this was too fast for you, I would imagine the conference is going to put this online at some point as well. And so my hope is that would be available to you. And then Jared, do KQL databases have a retention period for streamed defined by default? If not, can you apply a retention period to it? Absolutely. So KQL databases 100% have a retention period that you can set for the number of days that you want to be able to keep the data. Also, one of the things that you can do is you can set a cache level. Typically, you're going to size a workload on a KQL database to see what is the size of the information streaming that people are interested in a real-time level, but you can set that cache level. The cache that is specifically used by KQL database bills at a higher rate than the storage for a Microsoft Fabric capacity. And the Microsoft Fabric capacity, I want to say, is equivalent to the per gigabyte storage of the Azure data lake store for the region that you're provisioning the Fabric capacity in, which is typically, fractions of cents per gigabyte. However, for the cache, and this can get more expensive, it's around 40 cents per gigabyte uh, for the capacity that you're utilizing. So one of the things to keep in mind is the size of the cache that you need available. That's something you may want to tune on a KQL database, just based off the size of the workload that you need to be able to get going with it. Appreciate those questions. I know that we've got about 20 minutes left. Oh, yes, sir. Sorry, I had a connection glitch. I couldn't hear a response. Could you address my question? No problem. Okay, so what I was saying is right now it's very difficult to be able to pull the underlying data for the capacity metrics. The team is working on some solutions for Microsoft Fabric to be able to get more real-time streaming. It's going to be a work in process, but there will eventually be some announcements. I would look at some of the major conferences that we've got, definitely around FabCon in Stockholm, I would look at Ignite, and then I would look at Fabric Conference next year. But eventually there will be some announcements to be able to add some more real-time capabilities. The one thing I would say that you can do with the current capacity model is you can put data activator alerts on that report. So you can get alerts, but there will be a delay with that. But it's not as easy to get to the underlying metrics right now, but that's something that's going to change as we go. I hope that this was helpful. And this also shows you some of the capabilities that you have with real-time intelligence making. Thank you very much. I appreciate you as well. Thank you all so much. Please go check out those other sessions that are going on. I hope you catch the tail end, and I hope you have a wonderful Global Fabric Conference. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.